So finally, after years of wondering, the secrets of the basement have been revealed. And as expected, these secrets do nothing but complicate the plot even more and give us even more questions. But we finally got some answers, and we're finally going to get a true look into this cruel, cruel world. Now, if this episode at times felt slow to you, you'd be correct. This episode was paced a lot slower than previous episodes. And that's mainly because in this episode, from the moment the opening ends and the ending begins, all the material in between covers one entire chapter as opposed to the 2-chapter adaptations we've been getting this half of the season. That chapter being chapter 85, titled, you guessed it, The Basement. Now, the one thing I do think brings this episode down a tad is the pacing, obviously. Don't get me wrong, I was not expecting a 2-chapter adaptation going into this, and I absolutely, completely understand why it was done in such a way. The contents of the basement has been something that's been looming over the heads of Attack on Titan fans that have kept their anime-only status for all this time. And so with that in mind, I can see how for them, the slow pacing this episode had would only make them more and more eager to find out and get that big reveal. That not only is humanity in fact not over, but somewhere a part of humanity lives in absolute luxury. Though for me, somebody who's familiar with the source material, I couldn't help but notice some points where it was so obvious that they were trying to buy time, and those are the moments that bothered me specifically. However, I will say that those moments were so brief that I was actually really happy with the main ways they went about extending some of the source material. For example, most of the anime-only content that did come from this episode, I do believe, took place during the scene where Eren and Mikasa are walking to their home. And all of a sudden, we see Eren and Mikasa, but as children, explore their town as it was before the first attack. And then, somewhere along the way, we revisit some of the catastrophic events that happened on that one day. Now, this particular sequence did take place in the manga, but it was ridiculously brief, to the point where, to me, it did have an emotional impact, but the way the anime handled this scene resonated with me a lot more. The music that was so calm at the beginning, but as we got closer and closer to the basement grew tenser. We also got to look at old characters like Hange. I don't know, I just really loved how this portion of the episode was handled. And even though I did feel like at times it was taking a bit too long, it was beautifully directed and really expressed the importance of Eren's and Mikasa's return to their home. However, with all that being said, there is an after credit scene this episode which does take us into chapter 86, titled That Day, though we only get about 6 pages into this chapter. Not much to say about this at the moment. I reckon I'll have more to say about this chapter in particular the deeper we get into it, so definitely next episode. Though I will say that the sudden tone shift really caught me by surprise. There was just something so strange yet familiar about this scene. I really liked it. But for now, I will say that if you are an anime only, and you find the secrets of the basement to be so lucrative that you want to rid yourself of that status, basically if this episode is the one that got you motivated into reading the manga, chapter 86 is probably where you want to start. I usually say start from the beginning, But seeing as how this might be the first time some of you will be reading manga, and honestly the staff that has worked on Attack on Titan have done an amazing job at adapting not only this season but the entire series, in my opinion, that you're honestly not really missing much if you do start reading from chapter 86. Though in an episode that holds so much potential for information, in an episode that has been anticipated for 6 years now, some things are certain to slip through the cracks. We have the info, we have the Colossal Titan, so what's next? But granted, I can't fucking blame them. I was going absolutely mad when I first got to this point in the manga as well, so fair play. But really, just think about it for a second. Everything has changed. Armin is the new Colossal Titan. Which last episode I mentioned how using the Titan Serum on Erwin would have ended up feeling more like a curse to him rather than a second chance at getting to know the truth of this world. Because the burden Erwin would have to carry would be unlike any other he's carried before. But I never considered how much of a burden this would feel like to Armin until just now. Because while it was mentioned by everyone that they are by no means expecting Armin to replace Erwin, Armin is expected to make more decisions. Tougher decisions that he will have to stand by and not regret the way Erwin did up until his final moments. And honestly, the same could be said about Hange, as she has kind of been shoehorned into this new commanding position. And it's not that I don't think Hange is capable of being a commander, she definitely is. I mean, last episode we saw how she was able to handle Mikasa and definitely has the respect of the scouts. But it's the same thing as Armin. No, Hange is not expected to replace Erwin, but she is expected to make the decisions, take the risks, and make the gambles that Erwin was capable of making. Decisions, risks, and gambles Erwin was only capable of making because of his motivation. And it's not just those two. Everybody now has more resting on their shoulders than they've ever had before. At the end of the day, despite the retaking of Wall Maria being a success, the questions of was this all worth it is one I believe looms. I mean, take a look at the Survey Corps. They lost a lot to the point where their future is looking rather bleak. Eren, Mikasa, Armin, Hange, Levi, Jean, Connie, Sasha, and Flock. These 9, I believe, is what remain of the Survey Corps that we began this series with. And unfortunately, it seems like the Survey Corps is at its weakest in the moment that humanity, the one inside the walls, needs it the most. Because there is civilization. There is more to this world than the walls that confine these people's view of it. Somewhere beyond the walls, the place where Grisha Jaeger came from, this place with cameras, photography, and zeppelins could still very well be a thing. So, what's next? As always, these are my thoughts, and I'm curious to read yours. If you're an anime only, let me know how you felt about this episode and any predictions you may have. Now, while the main truth about this world that was hidden in Grisha Jaeger's basement was revealed, we are by no means done with the information that was in those books. So, here I ask you, what other secrets do you think will be revealed? Do you have any theories with the new information that we got? Also, how do you think the characters I mentioned will react to their increased responsibility? Will the Survey Corps be able to bounce back from their losses and do with this newfound information what they have to do? And of course, if you're a manga reader, let me know how you felt Studio Wit adapted this episode and what parts do you think they could have done a better job with, if any. Also, please feel free to discuss anything I forgot to mention in the comments below. I'd appreciate it if you liked this video, if you did enjoy it, as it helps the channel out quite a lot. Feel free to follow me on Twitter, link will be in the description as always. And of course, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell. That way you don't miss a video and can continue watching Attack on Titan and many other series with me. And with that being said, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all soon. Bye bye.